Welcome to EPG Pathshala. My name is Harshita Mishra from Department of Zoology, University of Delhi. Today we are going to study about aquatic ecosystem. Aquatic ecosystem consists of freshwater ecosystem and marine ecosystem. We will focus on freshwater ecosystem. Learning objectives of these modules are: after end of this module, you will be able to understand the concept of freshwater ecosystem. You will be able to understand the characteristics of lentic ecosystems, know the communities of lentic ecosystem and their ecological adaptations. You will also be able to know properties of lake ecosystems and their types, understand the major changes that are causing the threats to freshwater ecosystems. Let us start with the introduction. Freshwater ecology can be interpreted as interrelationship between freshwater organisms and their natural environments. Freshwater streams like springs, rivulets, creeks, brooks, etc. and the river trends over their course from being narrow to shallow and relatively rapid to increasingly broad, deep and slow moving. The degree of each feature depends upon the vertical drop over its length. Lentic ecosystems like pools, ponds, swamps, bogs, lakes, etc. vary considerably in physical, chemical and biological characteristics. The lentic aquatic system. Lentic aquatic bodies contain stagnant water. They are formed usually in large or small depressions formed on earth surfaces where water is trapped and has no exit flow. Few examples are ponds, lakes, swamps, etc. Therefore, the lentic ecosystems are closed systems, that is, most of the aquatic forms that enters these systems rarely goes out. In due course of time, they change into swamp or marshy wetlands and finally into dry lands. Now, zonation in lentic ecosystem. The bodies like ponds, lakes have three zones. Number 1, littoral zone. This is the shallow water region in which light penetrates till the bottom. This zone is marked by the presence of rooted plants. This may not be true in managed or man-made ponds or lakes. Limnetic zones. This is the open water zone to the depth of effective light penetration called the compensation level. The compensation level is that depth at which the rate of photosynthesis becomes equal to the rate of respiration. In general, this level will be at the depth at which light intensity is about 1% of full light intensity. Full light, that is full sunlight intensity. The community in this zone is composed only of planktons and the nectons and sometimes neustons. This zone is absent in small shallow ponds. The total illuminated stratum including the littoral zone and the limnetic zone is termed as eutrophic zone. Now, profundal zone. This is the deep bottom zone which is beyond the depth of effective light penetration. This is the zone often absent in ponds. Characteristics of lentic ecosystem. The physico-chemical environment in lentic aquatic system is remarkable due to absence of flow of water. Some important features of this system are: number 1, stability in physico-chemical characteristics of water quality. Most of the water in lentic system is derived from surface runoff, rain, from underground water sources which undergo very little change over the years. Therefore, the quality of water in lentic systems remain virtually unchanged for long duration of time. Number 2, impact of seasonal changes. The productivity of lentic system is influenced by its positive correlation with the seasonal change in physico-chemical characteristics of the water. The seasonal fluctuations of the water quality greatly affect the composition of living community. During the periods of bright sunshine, a rich growth of phytoplanktons is observed. Number 3, impact of area versus volume of water on assessment of productivity. In the assessment of the productivity of a lentic water body, the total surface area of water body is more important than volume of water or the depth of the water body. The total stretch of the littoral zone and limnetic zone determines the productivity. Even the profundal zone are nutritionally rich in some lentic bodies. Lentic ecosystems are closed ecosystems. Since there is no outflow for the water bodies, substances persist in this system. Natural products, products of decomposition and mineralization of organic matters, degraded or semi-degraded products of the pollutants are discharged in these aquatic bodies. This has significant impact on biotic communities. Number 5, thermal and nutritional stratification. The phenomena of stratification, also known as vertical donation, is one of the most important feature of lentic water body. Stratification results in different layers of lentic waters having different temperature, oxygen content and the nutrient status. Stratification develops mainly due to following reasons. Number 1, seasonal changes. The typical seasonal cycle result in the thermal stratification. During summers, the top water become warmer than the bottom layer. As a result, only warm top layer circulates and it does not mix with the more viscous cold water, creating a zone with a steep temperature gradient in the between called thermocline. So, thermocline is the middle line. Number 2 is the light. Sunlight illuminates the limnatic zone where active photosynthesis and growth takes place. The benthic and the profundal and benthic zones are dark, deprived of primary productivity. Some amount of atmospheric oxygen also dissolves into the upper surface of water, making this surface upper zone rich in oxygen and poor in nutrition, while the bottom zone rich in nutrition but poor in dissolved oxygen content. Number 3, decomposition and mineralization of organic matter. Nutrient is abundant near the bottom strata where they diffuse towards the upper strata. Decomposition of dead organisms, mineralization of organic matter and regeneration of nutrients occur actively in the profundal zone and benthic zone. These zones are oxygen deficient. Number 4, atmospheric temperature and air circulation. 95% of heat is received or lost by the aquatic body through its upper surface. The temperature of the upper surface is directly influenced by atmospheric temperature. The deeper layers are insulated from the sides. The deeper layers are insulated from the sides. They do not undergo any rapid change in temperature. They also affect the density of the water. Number 5, density gradient of water. When lighter or less dense layer of water is placed on heavier or denser water, thermal stratification develops. Water has its maximum density at 4 degrees centigrade. Above 4 degrees centigrade, warmer, it is lighter than every liquid, but temperature at below 4 degrees centigrade, the situation is exactly opposite to other liquid, since warmer water are heavier than cooler ones. The condition under which stratification develops in a static water bodies are when the water body is having temperature below 4 degrees centigrade is subjected to cooling, or when the water body is having temperature above 4 degrees centigrade is subjected to heating. In both the cases, the surface layer becomes lighter than the layer of water underneath. The lighter water tends to stay at top and prevents free circulation and mixing of different layers of water. The imaginary line that demarcates the two zones having different temperature is termed as thermoclines. The zone above thermocline is known as epilimnion and the zone below this line is called hypolimnion. Complete mixing of water occurs when a water body having temperature above 4 degrees centigrade cools up to 4 degrees centigrade, or when a water body having temperature below 4 degrees centigrade is heated up to 4 degrees centigrade. Under both of these conditions, the upper layer of the water body becomes heavier. They sink down and the lighter water comes up to replace the heavier layer. Thus, the thorough mixing of different layers of water shall occur. Stratification is an important process in the temperate region where temperature falls below 0 degrees centigrade. As a result of thermal stratification, cooler water stays at the surface of the water body and ice formation start from the top moving downwards. Therefore, aquatic life lives safely under the sheet of ice. Now we talk about the lentic community. Communities of the littoral zone. Number 1, producers. Two types of producers are present in the littoral zone. Rooted or benthic plants. These are seeded plants. These are plants from concentric zones within the littoral zone, one group replacing another as the depth of the water changes. A representative arrangement processing from shallow to deeper water is described as follows. Zone of emergent vegetation. These includes the rooted plants. These plants obtain nutrition from the deep anaerobic sediments and thus act as useful nutrient pumps for the ecosystem. Example, cattails of Typha are dominant producers, arrowheads, Sagittaria or Iliocharis etc. are few other examples. They are used for food and shelter by amphibious animals and provide convenient means of entry and exit into the water for aquatic insects which spend part of their lives on water and part of their lives on land. Zone of rooted plants with floating leaves. Water lilies like from the family Nymphaceae are the usually predominant, but other plants such as water shields, Bressnia are also found in many water bodies. The undersurfaces of the lily pads provide convenient resting place and substrate for egg deposition of animals. Zone of submergent vegetation. This zone includes rooted or fixed submerged plants. The leaves of these plants are thin and finely divided and adapted for exchange of nutrients within the water. The pond weeds are the usual dominant species of this zone. Example: coontails, ceratophyllum, water millifoils or water weeds, naiads, najas and wild celery are important submerged plants. Now we come to the floating phytoplanktons. Floating phytoplanktons, these are the non-rooted producers of the littoral zone comprising of numerous species of algae. Many species are found floating throughout the littoral as well as limnatic zone. Some major type of algae found are diatoms. These are box-like silica shell and have yellow or brown pigment in the chromatophores masking the green chlorophyll. These are indicators of water quality. Green algae from Chlorophyta. These include single-celled forms such as filamentous form either floating or attached. Chlorophyll is not masked by any other pigment, hence their population has bright green appearance. Blue-green algae, Cyanophyta. These are single-celled or colonial algae with diffused chlorophyll masked by blue-green pigment. They are of great ecological significance because their biomass increase immensely in polluted pond and lakes. They are able to fix gaseous nitrogen into nitrates. Now we come to the consumers. Littoral zone is the home for many varieties of consumers. Algal growth or greater primary productivity is associated with abundance of food for organisms that feed on algae. Algae eaters are mostly invertebrates such as microcrustaceans, insect larvae and mollusks. Many small fishes including young of larger species also feed on algae and other plants. Periphytons occurs more or less throughout the littoral zone. Some common examples are pond snails, damselfly nymphs, rotifers, flatworms and midge larvae. Snail feeds on plants and ovush whereas midge larvae obtain food from detritus. Dragon and damselflies are carnivorous. Another group of animals can also be observed resting on the bottom or beneath the silt or plant debris. Few examples are sprawling odonata, nymph, crayfish, isopods and certain mayfly nymphs, clams, true worms, snails and chironomids and also dipteran larvae living in minute burrows. Now we come to the nectons of littoral zone. They show great diversity and are present in large number. Beetles and various adult hemipterans and some dipteran larvae remain suspended in water near the surface. Amphibious vertebrates such as frogs, salamanders, turtles and water snakes are most exclusive member of the littoral zone community. Tadpoles of the frogs and toads are important primary consumers, feeding on algae and other plants and materials. Whereas adults move to the higher trophic levels. Pond fishes move freely across various zones, but most of the species spend large part of their life in the littoral zones. They breed and reproduce in this zone. For example, sunfish or gambusia fish. Zooplanktons of these zones are different from limnatic zone. They are large, weak swimming species. And some of the species of Daphnia are examples of it. Littoral neustons consist of wriggling beetles, family Gyrinnidae, commonly known as fisherman's lucky bugs, large water striders, family Geridae, or small broad-shouldered water striders, family Villidae. Now, we talk about the communities of limnatic zone. We come to the producers first. Phytoplankton producers of the open water zone consist of algae and algae like green flagellates, chiefly dinoflagellates, Euglenoidae and Volvicidae. Phytoplanktons may exceed the rooted plants in primary productivity per unit area. Very high density appears quickly but is short-lived, as is known as algal blooms or phytoplankton's pulses. The lake of northern United States show large spring blooms in early spring and small pulses in autumn. During winter, due to low water temperature and reduced light conditions, the number of phytoplanktons organisms increase rapidly, since nutrition are not limiting for the moment. When the nutrients are exhausted, the blooms disappear. When nutrients again begin to accumulate, nitrogen fixating blue-green algae like Anabaena are often responsible for causing autumn blooms. Now we come to the consumers. Few species of zooplanktons are present in the limnetic zone, but their number is fairly large. Like copepods, cladocerans and rotifers are important groups, but their species is different from that of littoral zone. Cyclops are more abundant in small water bodies. Now we come to the zooplanktons. Zooplankton blooms are generally seen soon after phytoplanktonic blooms, as they are dependent on the plant community. Nectons consist of fishes. The species are same as that of littoral zone in case of ponds, but in case of larger lakes, the limnetic zones have some unique species of fishes.
Continue.
Most of the fishes feed on large free swimming animals, while few species such as gizzard sheds, Dorosoma have strainers, and they are plankton feeders. Now, communities of profundal zones. The amphibians of the profundal zones depend on limnetic and littoral zone for basic food material. The profundal zone provides rejuvenated nutrients which are carried by current and swimming animals to the other zones. The major community of this zone comprise of bacteria and fungi, which are abundant in water-mud interface where organic matter accumulates. There are three groups of consumer in these zones. Number 1, bloodworms or the hemoglobin containing chironomid larvae and annelids. Second is small clams of Sphaeridae family, and third is phantom larvae. Bloodworms and the clams are the benthic form, while the phantom larvae are the plankton form that moves to the limnetic zone during night and down to the bottom during the day. The population of red annelid worm increases in the domestic sewage polluted water. All members of the profundal zone are adapted to withstand periods of low oxygen concentration, whereas most of the bacteria are anaerobic. Now we come to the lake ecosystem. Lakes are perfect habitats for studying the ecosystem dynamics, which shows the distinct biological, physical and chemical processes. Though lakes contain only 0.01% of all water on the earth's surface, they contain 98% of the total fresh water on the land surface. Deposition of detritus, movement of chemicals and many organisms is unidirectional in the direction of watershed to the lake. On the other hand, migration of some fishes can happen upstream and many aquatic insects can disperse on land. For this reason, a lake and its watershed are sometimes considered as single ecosystem forming a flow-through system, called by Likens in 1985. Thermal properties of a lake. In warm weather, the surface of the lake is heated and it becomes less dense and remains at the surface, floating on the denser cold water beneath. The surface continues to gain heat while the bottom water remains cold. The two layers, epilimnion and hypolimnios, are separated by thermocline. Sometimes the thermocline is referred as metalimnion and treated as separate compartment in its own right. The hypolimnion is cold and is entirely cut off from the air by an immovable lid of warm water. It cannot obtain oxygen from the air and depends on the reserve of dissolved oxygen or oxygen from the deep water photosynthesis. The warmer epilimnion float on the surface and it is in permanent contact with the air, and therefore it has continuous supply of oxygen. Since the water in this layer is in close contact to the light, it receives most of the oxygen from photosynthesis. The epilimnion layer of water is in contact with the mud only at the lake margins. In freezing weathers, lakes are stratified differently. Since maximum density of water is at 4 degrees centigrade and freezes at 0 degrees centigrade, and deep water at 4 degrees centigrade may be warmest with the temperature gradient from there to the surface. The surface is covered with ice, solid phase, effectively separated from entire lake from its oxygen supply. Now seasonal cycle in temperate lakes. In winters, lakes are stratified with ice floating over the warmer water. This ends when the ice melts and strong wind completely mix the water of the lake. This process is known as spring overturn. In early summers, the lake goes into the second period of stratification with the warm epilimnion floating over the cold hypolimnion and the thermocline in between. Surface cooling and the strong winds at the end of the summer mix the water once again. This mixing is referred to as water overturn. Now we talk about the biological oxygen demand. In stratified lakes, there is a differential oxygen supply to the epilimnion and the hypolimnion. In fertile lake, nearly all the photosynthesis takes place in epilimnion, which receives oxygen throughout the summer, while the hypolimnion does not. Since the organism present in the hypolimnion needs to respire, the demand for oxygen continues in the hypolimnion even when the oxygen supplies are cut off. Biological oxygen demand (BOD) is met by oxygen reserves of the water. For a highly fertile lake, the BOD exceeds the oxygen reserves and the hypolimnion become oxygen deprived in the late summers. Fishes of the deep and cold bottom waters like trout suffocates in the anoxic hypolimnion and only surface living fish species are able to survive. When the lake is infertile, some photosynthesis is carried out in the depths. Fishes like trout thrive in these lakes, spending much time in cold water of the hypolimnion and making only brief foraging excursion to the warm epilimnion for food. Now we talk about the eutrophy and oligotrophy. Limnologist refers the fertile lakes as eutrophic lakes and the infertile lakes as oligotrophic lakes. The fertility of the lake is set by the concentration of the dissolved nutrients. The concentration of the nutrient can change with the season depending on the intensity and duration of stratification and also the free oxygen available near the bottom of the mud. Oligotrophy or eutrophy of a lake is determined by various factors that control the concentration of the nutrients in the open water where the plants live. Nutrient cycling. Nutrients enter the lake by rapid descent to mud. The solubility of the important nutrients like iron and the phosphorus is critically dependent on whether they are oxidized or not. Ferrous iron salt are easily soluble, but ferric iron compounds, example rust, form precipitates. Nutrient cycle in oligotrophic lakes. Nutrients entering from watersheds are taken up by the plants, which are then passed through the food chains or back to the water through herbivory and death. During this cycle, a rapid distribution of nutrients takes place as copse and debris fall into the dark depth of the lake. In oligotrophic lakes, the nutrition stays at the oxidized bottom mud. Nutrient cycle in eutrophic lakes. Nutrient inputs are large in fertile lakes. Nutrients enter from the watershed are cycled and fall down to the depth as in oligotrophic lakes. But the falling particles are numerous and are often referred as brown snow of the copse and debris. BOD is high, the hypolimnion is reduced and the surface mud is reduced also. Throughout the summer period of the stratification, dissolved nutrients collected in the hypolimnion of the eutrophic lakes to be mixed back into the rest of the lake at fall overturn. Thus, fertile lakes have a nutrient retrieval and feedback mechanism which is absent in oligotrophic lakes. Lake depth and temperature. Temperature influences the fertility of the lake. If lake is cold, a high nutrient load can still fail to make it eutrophic. Now we talk about most important part, that is Langmuir circulation and the descent of thermocline. Within the epilimnion, there is no change of temperature with the depth. Therefore, mixing currents must penetrate from surface to the thermocline. Langmuir circulation is an important generator of these currents. It was first discovered by Langmuir in the sea in the year 1938. Debris, particularly the torn up remains of the seaweeds from the rocky shores, floats or rows on the sea surfaces. These rows are parallel to the direction of winds. According to Langmuir, the water current moves at the right angle of the winds and nudge the debris into the rows. He suggested the following pattern of circulation. The wind tends to push surface water along the direction in which it was going, but this moving water has to be replaced. Part of the replacement is done by the water from behind, but some of it is replaced by the water coming from below. Therefore, the horizontal current of water is also accomplished by vertical ascending current. At the same time, the water moving upward or upwelling is replaced by the water that sinks, that is downwelling. This results in a system of up and down circular cells which is associated with the horizontal movement of water. When such system develops in a three-dimensional water bodies, a series of helical circulation cell is formed, which is known as Langmuir circulation. Now, we move up to the thermal stratification in tropical lakes. Tropical lakes with high surface temperature like 20 to 30 degrees centigrade exhibit weak gradient and little seasonal changes at any depth. General circulation is irregular, occurring mostly in cooler seasons. Very deep tropical lake tends to remain only partly mixed. The hypolimnion in lowland tropical lake is nearly without oxygen. Oxygen deficiency can be marked even in the epilimnion. This is partly due to high productivity because of high temperature and partly due to biological decomposition of large inputs of organic matter from productive tropical ecosystem on the banks. A typical jungle lake is therefore turbid, murky and has opaque structure with high biological activity. These lakes may be overturned by exceptional storms or being flooded by cold rains or groundwater. Such lakes are also known as oligomictic lakes. They may be stratified for weeks or months before there is a short episodes of mixing. In the high elevated tropical lakes like in the equatorial Andes mountains, cool climate exists without season but have alternation of 12 hours of day and 12 hours of night. Surface heating during day is partly counterbalanced by the surface cooling at night. The turnover frequency of such lake is measured in hours and they are known as polymictic lakes. Types of lakes. Now we go to the topic types of lake and there we will study that how many types of lakes are present. Lakes are found across the world and can be classified in various categories on the different bases. Classification on the basis of primary productivity. On the basis of primary productivity, we can differentiate lakes into oligotrophic lakes which are deep with hypolimnion larger than the epilimnion and have low primary productivity. Littoral plants are scarce and plankton's density is low. Although the number of the species may be large, algae, planktonics bloom is rare, hypolimnion is not subjected to oxygen depletion and hence they are stenothermal. These lakes are considered as the geologically young lakes. Cold water fishes are limited and characteristics to the hypolimnion. For example, Great Lakes and Finger Lakes of New York. Eutrophic lakes. These are shallow and have great primary productivity. Littoral vegetation is more abundant, planktons populations are denser and blooms are characteristics. Because of the heavy organic content, summer stagnation may be severe enough to exclude cold water fishes. For example, Lake Mendota. Now, classification on the basis of water circulation patterns. Dimictic lakes. In dimictic lakes, 2 seasonal periods of free circulation or overturns are present. Cold monomictic lakes, water temperature is never above 4 degrees centigrade, example lake of polar regions, seasonal overturn in summer. Warm monomictic lakes, water temperature is never below 4 degrees centigrade, for example lakes of warm temperate or subtropical regions. Usually one seasonal overturn in winter is present. Polymictic lakes, more or less continually circulating with only short stagnant periods. For example, lakes of high altitude and equatorial regions. Oligomictic lakes, rarely or very slow mixed, thermally stable, for example, tropical lakes. Meromictic lakes, permanently stratified, most commonly as a result of chemical differences in hypo and epilimnion waters. For example, Big Soda Lake in Nevada. Now we summarize the whole module. Freshwater ecosystem, unlike marine ecosystem with salt content, is most productive and diverse ecosystem ensuring wide range of utilities. Freshwater ecosystem is responsible for maintaining terrestrial ecosystem and brace marine ecosystems. Lentic ecosystem consists of stagnant water bodies with no exit flow. Due to this reason, pollutants persist in the system. Physico-chemical characteristics of water quality remain stable in lentic ecosystems. Productivity of this system is positively correlated with the seasonal changes. An important phenomena of stratification is also observed in lentic bodies, which results in creating different layers of water with different temperature, oxygen content and nutrient content. When the lentic body is subjected to cooling or heating above 4 degrees centigrade, condition of thermal stratification develops which prevents intermixing of different layers of water. stratification plays a vital role in temperate region where temperature falls below 0 degree centigrade, keeping the aquatic life safe under the sheet of ice. When the ice melts, strong winds completely mix the water of the lake, and this phenomena is known as spring overturn. Tropical lakes with high surface temperature like 20 degree centigrade to 30 degree centigrade exhibit weak gradient and little seasonal changes in temperature at any depth. There are various communities thriving in different zones of lentic bodies. In littoral zone communities, various type of producers are found like rooted, floating, submerged or combination of these. Similarly, many varieties of consumers are also found in littoral zones. These consumers can be algae eating crustaceans, insect larvae, small fishes, isopods, mayflies, nymphs, dragonfly nymphs, pond snails, few species of beetles and hemipterans, few dipteran larvae, tadpoles, salamanders, turtles and snakes. Similarly, the diversity of producers and consumer is found in limnetic zone. Algae, dinoflagellates, euglenoideae constitute the phytoplanktons of the limnetic zone, which may exceed the rooted plant in the primary productivity per unit area. When their number increases, it causes algal bloom or phytoplanktons pulses. The consumer of limnetic zone consists of copepods, rotifers, cyclopes, crustaceans and fishes, but their species is different from that of littoral zone. Profundal zone is devoid of light, and hence organisms of this zone are dependent on limnetic zone and littoral zone for food requirements. Bacteria and fungi constitute the major community of this zone, which is rich in nutrients. Consumers of this zone consist of bloodworms, small clams and phantom larvae. Lake ecosystem consists of 98% of total fresh water on the land. Stratification is also observed in lake ecosystem. The fertility of the lake is set by concentration of dissolved nutrients. Fertile lakes are known as eutrophic lakes and the infertile lakes are also known as oligotrophic lakes. Algal blooms are observed on the surface of eutrophic lakes and hence their productivity and biological oxygen demand is high. Phenomena of upwelling and downwelling is also observed in a lake, which helps in intermixing of warm and cold water currents. A three-dimensional helical circulation of water current made up of upwelling, downwelling, vertical and horizontal mixing of water forms Langmuir circulation. Lakes can be classified on the basis of primary productivity, water circulation pattern or due to special features. For healthy functioning of freshwater ecosystem, climate change, biodiversity depletion, human settlements, chemical inputs, land use alterations, excessive utilization of water for agriculture and energy purposes has greatly affected the sound functioning of freshwater ecosystem. Sometimes the introduction of alien invasive species can also alter the biological property of the aquatic system and interfere with the biological chain and food web. Direct and indirect change in the nature of the freshwater ecosystem alters its sensitive biota. All these factors may become cause of occurrence and transmission of many human diseases. And this is the end of the module. Thank you very much.